Welcome back to the Star Wars Newsnet Timeline Show, episode 48 on Tempest Runner. We're going to be getting into the second audio drama of the High Republic, but the first audio drama that I get to talk to with my good friend Luke. Luke, how are you doing today? What are the vibes? Are we ready to talk Tempest Runner? You know, this is the first piece of Star Wars literature, or even, it's an audio drama of like first and foremost, but I have the text here that I read the whole thing, but this is the first piece of Star Wars that actually makes me care about Lourna Dee, makes me invested in Lourna Dee, makes me like Lourna Dee. I don't really care or was super interested in her other than, oh, she's a really good henchman, really good villain, really good like tertiary evil character in the Nile. But this one actually makes me want to dive more into her story, which is important because she plays a pivotal role in wave 3 or phase 3 that we're going to be getting into before too long. Here we'll be into the phase 3 High Republic stuff. But where are you at in terms of your general thoughts on Tempest Runner before we get going?
I liked it. I think it's my favorite audio drama. And I've actually consumed the book both ways now. The first time I went through this story was physically reading it, much as yourself have done. The second time that I've gone through it here in the past couple of weeks, I did it as an audiobook.
I love that.
So it was really cool that I've got both perspectives on it. But it just makes you actually care about Lourna Dee for the first time. You know her from the previous adult books, definitely, but we really get some juicy backstories, some maybe bad decisions she's made, or just bad circumstances she's found herself in the middle of. So
absolutely,
it's good stuff.
Lots of trauma there, a lot to unpack in terms of her backstory and where she's at here that propels her to what she's going to do in the future. Like, I'm really excited to talk about this one. However, I just got out of Revenge of the Sith, 20-year anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. 4 words for you: Star Wars means more. And it's about as well as I can put it, because what other movies out there, not many, will make you feel the way Revenge of the Sith makes you feel after 20 years. And just everything from the amount of music that's in this one to the soundtrack itself to every single, action sequence, but just the emotional heartbeat that rings through and the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker, the fall of the Jedi. Like, I think reading the High Republic right now as we're going through this amplifies Revenge of the Sith to me even more, because I see the light of the Jedi and what they're supposed to be and what the Jedi Order is supposed to stand for. And I see what becomes of it and how it falls. And the tragedy is so enhanced by the High Republic. So it's almost special that we're going through the High Republic while we're in the midst of this, 20-year Revenge of the Sith anniversary, while we're in the midst of Andor Season 2, which is the aftermath of the rule of the Empire. So there is a little bit of something special that goes along with all of this, and it just makes everything feel loom a little bit larger. And I cry every time I watch this movie, especially on the big screen. And I know, that I watch this movie all the time, but Star Wars movies in general, it made me just sit back and think, we have the Mando movie, we have Starfighter coming out, and there's something about making me yearn for another Jedi story, set in the future. And I've been someone that's like, I want Star Wars to push beyond the Skywalker saga, but watching that made me really want to go see like an episode with Rey and the future of the Jedi, to see like the Jedi Order rebuilt and sustained again. That's something I almost like, I need to see this at this point. Like, I might go watch Return of the Jedi later just to go feel something and see Luke help his father, save his father, redeem him, and bring Anakin back. But I don't know. I know you saw Revenge of the Sith last night, so if you have any initial Revenge of the Sith thoughts, like, go ahead and drop them real quick before we get started.
It had been a little while. It had been a year since I've watched. I watched it last year for May 4th. But this time around, I just realized how much stuff was propping up A New Hope, because, at 2005, there's nothing that existed in canon between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. So everything in that movie, in some small or large part, is kind of just propping up and really, really directing toward A New Hope, with, the end where it's Captain Antilles, take these droids and to the mother and the father. And there's just so much, stuff going on with Kenobi picks up the lightsaber. There's all these like little moments that are like hey, you know where this is going? You know where this is going. Like, this is going to show back up in A New Hope.
Mhm.
That's why we did this. And there's fun things about that, but the movie is so heavy with
Mhm.
this character who you really want to root for, Anakin falling to the dark side. So you just feel everything with the movie, and I think that's rare. A lot of times, movies will get you to focus in on one or two big themes, but Star Wars,
Mhm.
Revenge of the Sith, Star Wars in general, Revenge of the Sith in specifically,
Mhm.
you just got it all. I think that's why
Right.
it's everybody's favorite.
Well, there's so much to movies. You have movies that are written to tell certain stories of,
Totally.
real life things that exist that we need to harp on this. I think of just really poignant stories like those dramas, those Oscar type movies that exist. Like I think of The Brutalist that came out this last year, telling the story of an immigrant making their way in America at a certain time period. Like these are just very, singular, true stories that are timeless, so to speak, but need to be told. And then you have like these epic sci-fi opera type things like Star Wars, which these aren't winning, Oscar nominations for, best, feature fit, like best picture or anything like that. But there is like the grand scale of cinema that exists here that, you just don't find anywhere else other than in Star Wars. And I know that a lot of people feel like Star Wars has lost sight of that recently. And I just hope that maybe we can get back to a place where we feel like Star Wars has recaptured that. But I also know that, Revenge of the Sith was pretty well received, but it's not like episode 2 and 1 were received with such critical acclaim and everyone clamoring over how brilliant the prequels were. So I also have to put my blinders on and realize that a lot of people are stupid and just want to be negative because everyone enjoys living in negativity, I guess, instead of focusing on the positives. And I don't know. I just have to get that out there.
That's sad, but it's true. Negativity makes a lot of money these days on the internet, so got to
Hmm.
be careful who you're listening to.
But we're not going to find that here because we're talking about Tempest Runner, which honestly, there's a lot of negative vibes in this because it's not a happy tale by any stretch of the imagination. But we're diving into Lourna Dee, and this audio drama helps us unpack her as a character. She's no longer just the evil henchman that works, as a Tempest Runner for the Nile under Marquis and Rowe. No, this person has plans of her own that start to become a little bit more clear, but we see a fall from grace for her multiple times, both in her past and present. And we are not, yet at the point in the timeline show where we are going to talk about her future, but there's a lot to unpack here. And the start of this audio drama essentially is they believe, the Republic, that is, believe in the Jedi, believe that Lourna Dee is the Eye of the Nile, which we know is Martian Rowe. Like we know that's Rowe. But they believe that it's Lourna. So they are pursuing her, like Avar Chris and others are pursuing her with everything they have. They finally catch up to her, and Lourna fakes her own death to then slide and be taken prisoner by the Republic, but they believe that they have captured Lourna Dee. So then she starts to go by a different name of Sal, and that's kind of like this new persona she puts on. But there are other members of the Nile that are aware of her presence, that are aware that, this is my Tempest Runner, and she kind of has to almost flip the script, and she's no longer their Tempest Runner. She's almost working for some of them because they are going to reveal her secret unless she does exactly what they're told. So it's like completely flips up everything on its head of what, where she was originally as a Tempest Runner to now where she is as a prisoner for the Republic. But we also get to see the dynamics of the Jedi here, and we see how Avar Chris and Keith Trennis are hailing this. We get to see Skier, and they're talking about his, connection with the Force, and there's a lot to unpack here. And we see Skier kind of go nuts on some people, taking some people out. But where are you on just the first third of this, where she is taken prisoner, fakes her own death, and the Jedi think they have just taken out and killed the Eye of the Nile. They think that they have won, and then we really get into more of a Lourna Dee story because it starts with the Jedi a little bit intertwined, and then it becomes fully fledged Lourna Dee story once she's captured.
So this will be a little bit random, but Andor season 2 is coming out right now, and what it makes me think of, since that's on the mind, we just did this, makes me think of the Narkina arc. The Empire had Cassian right there. They had him captured, and they're searching so hard for him, but they don't know that they've already got him. The Republic falls in this same kind of vein in this story. they have captured Lourna Dee, the person that they think is the Nile, Eye of the Nile, is truly a Tempest Runner. It is someone they absolutely want to capture.
Right.
They have them in their midst, in their grasp, and they don't realize it. And so that always just makes for a poignant story, and that always makes for a little bit of subterfuge on the captive person. And so
Right.
seeing Lourna navigate her relationship with Olga Hest and this person who kind of like is in the pockets of these prison people, who's kind of running the prison, but as a
Right.
prisoner, um, she has to bow to that person to not get killed or not get found out who she really is. Um, it just shows that Lourna Dee is much more than a tough person, just a muscle. Like, she's witty. She's had to be witty from birth. Like, she has to be smart about this, or else she will just end it all quickly.
Right.
She
And
shows she's
her,
got brains.
we talk about the different Tempest Runner strategies. Hers has always been, I'm going to, and speaking of Andor, it's like when Mon Mothma says in Andor season 1, when she's talking about how she's learned from Palpatine. Like, if I, show you, it's like I show you the smile and extend that hand, you won't you won't see the knife at your throat, so to speak. And that's how I would describe Lourna Dee as a villain. She's very stealth and has charm and like knows when to play certain roles. Like, she'll step out of the spotlight, she'll go into the spotlight. She's not going to ever let you know when that knife is at your throat. And I think that kind of encapsulates how she handles the situation. She knows it's a bad spot, but she is resigned to not necessarily just take her fate, but she's resigned to the position she's in. But she's not going to give up. She's going to figure out, how can I manipulate this for the betterment of my position? Because eventually something will open up, and she starts developing a plan. But I personally found her history with the Republic and her history with her people very interesting. Like, this was the most interesting part of the story for me. Like, I could have had even more of this backstory. We find out that she is in a semi-royal family on one of the, not on of Ryloth, but one of the like moons, basically the Aloth, that is one of the moons that serves under the the leaders of Ryloth, and are in charge of supplying different supplies and resources. But Ryloth demands a lot, and we find out here that their planet is struggling, that there's a bit of like a drought. There's the harvest isn't as plentiful, that their resources aren't as much and abundant as they'd like. The people are frustrated, the people are hungry, the people aren't going to take much more. There's a lot of protests, and Lourna discovers these fields of possible spice that they could, or the mineral that is used to create spice. Yes, glitterstim, and they can harvest this and sell it and become rich overnight, essentially. An abundance of wealth that they could use this for. But her father is very much like, no, we're an agricultural society. We are not going to get into this. And there's a little bit of self-righteousness that exists there, where he's not willing to create a better life for his people. But there's also a level of, this, I support this, because he's not willing to sacrifice his principles simply to earn profit. But it's just an interesting juxtaposition, because his people are suffering, and Lourna at this time really does have the best interests of her people in mind. But her father, her siblings, they don't necessarily see eye to eye with her, and kind of tell her, oh, it's just Lourna going off again, not necessarily following the rules. She's a bit of a rebel child, but she does at this point in time really want what's best for her people. She wants to be a good leader and provide for them, and she's worried about the future and her family's standing as the royals, because the people won't stand for this much longer if they don't do something to change.
Right. And really, when you look at her wanting to use this glitter stem that comes from these like spiders in the field, it's portrayed as like, this is actually a lesser of two evils that you can do, because the other option would be to like mine and drill into the
Right.
planet and just detrimentally harm the planet,
Mm-hmm.
um, just for profit.
Right.
So for the option to be there that like this thing naturally exists, we could use this instead of slavery, instead of our farming, which is failing us because the
Mm,
Zygerians are coming around and they're saying, hey, um, if you would like to make some money, I know how you can make some money. You can sell some of your people into slavery. And she doesn't want to do that either.
mhm,
So it seems like it's your best option, but still,
mhm,
um, Udiah D, Lorna's father, is just not willing to bend from
mhm,
tradition, even though it's coming from a good place. He wants
mhm,
the best for his family, but he's not willing to like change what's been going on. It's
mhm.
tradition that he's kind of held to. Um,
There's a level of he needs to adapt in
yeah,
order for their people to survive, but you don't have to completely sacrifice all your values necessarily
no.
and go full on the other end. Well, there's this guy named Bala. Is it Bala or Bala?
Bala Waleen.
Okay,
Bala.
so it is Bala. I have not listened to the full audio drama, so I just read the story. So
Bala.
I, but Bala is an old friend of Lorna's that's moved on. He serves some different people now that don't necessarily operate by the same rule book as Lorna's father, and he's saying, "Oh, we could reach out to Sagarians, we could reach out to different people and get this moving right away, and the spice could start flowing." And he comes up and approaches Lorna with a plan, saying, "Hey, the people are going to start an uprising tonight. The royal guards are going to open the gates. They are going to let them in. When you and your family go into the secret palace bunker, okay, where they could be safe for a long time until reinforcements could arise to, settle the dispute." He's saying like when they arrive, when you get in the bunker, open the doors to the bunker, and we will, come in and you can, rule, in your father's place, and I will help you along the way. And as soon as you read this, you're like, oh, Lorna, like this guy is not to be trusted. And sure enough, Lorna opens the doors. Bala sends some troops to come in, and Lorna says, "Oh, great. All right, next move. We're gonna do this." And Bala says, "Execute them." And they kill her entire family, and he sells Lorna into slavery and assumes the throne for himself. At that point in time, you're like, this guy is done. At some point, Lorna's going to get some revenge on this guy because we know she becomes Tempest Runner of the Nile. I doubt the Tempest Runner of the Nile is just going to let Bala rule in her place for too long. He's going to definitely have. She's definitely going to have the last say here. But there is a level of sadness where you see that while Lorna doesn't have the best relationship with her family, it's still her family. Like she loves them, even though they butt heads a lot. She loves them, and to watch them get killed over a decision that she makes, and then to watch her people then have to go through this drastic change where several people in the royal family or the royal guard that didn't necessarily let the people in weren't a part of this. They're sold into slavery as well, along with Lorna, and this starts her journey of from a slave to a Tempest Runner.
It's I mean, talk about Revenge of the Sith tragedy. I mean, that's tragedy that like you don't even want to betray your family, but you do because you think it's in the best of your own people. Then you get betrayed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's just insane to think about because she might have like been she that was such a big turning point for her life
Mm-hmm.
because could that have gone another way? She doesn't become a bad person at all. She's just kind of an unruly child in a royal family.
Mm-hmm.
She'll get older, she'll straighten out, like it's fine, but like this this
Mm-hmm.
set her on that path of becoming just an anarchist, just horrible person, really,
Right.
who ends up being in the Nile.
Mm-hmm.
It's that moment that does it.
And she even tries to help some people while she's a Ligurian slave. She like tries
Hmm.
to help out here or there, but ultimately that doesn't get her very far. She learns the meaning of pain very quickly. And over time, where she's in the prison at this time, But yeah, these are just flashbacks. But the flashbacks are very important because I really want to talk about them some more. Is she ultimately crosses paths with Bala again, and Bala doesn't know it's Lourna because she's wearing like this Mandalorian helmet, and she has like different Beskar armor that she has won from like different fighting pits, gladiators type fighting pits, and that she's kind of worked her way up from slavery now to earning a little measure of freedom as a bounty hunter slash mercenary for hire. And Bala doesn't know it's her. And so they are having problems with the Nile on their shipping lanes as he's been running their planet. And so Lorna's like, oh, this is how I'm going to get my revenge. So she goes, Nile will come aboard. She like kills most of the Nile and then offers basically a deal to Pan Etta, who is a Tempest Runner with the Nile, saying, hey, come with me. I'll take you. We're going to absolutely have lavish of riches here. Brings the Nile to her own planet. Just absolutely lays waste to most of the people there, kills Bala, and turns her own people into essentially like slaves of the Nile to some degree.
Yeah. She is just that vengeful. And we've seen that in previous books too, where if she gets wronged by someone, she will not stop and not forget it. Like she's going to come back and get you. So Bala, the slimy guy that he is, like he gets what's coming to him. You put it around, it's going to come around. So I'm not going to say that was cool or that I enjoyed it, but it was a little bit maybe cathartic to see this person who mistreated Lourna. He gets it.
Okay. You get so none of that though explains why Lourna Dee hates the Republic and she hates the Jedi so much. There is something else that happens in our backstory that kind of leads into this, and we'll talk about that more. I want to go back. Let's go back to the main story because there is a Republic official named Weddick, or Wessick, I believe.
Wittick.
And Wittick. God dang it.
Because his name is John Wittick.
Yes, John Wittick. There we go. I looked it up. John Wittick. So John Wittick, talk about an interesting name. Last name Wittick, first name John. Like what a weird Star Wars name. Like normal name John, last name Wittick. Okay, let's keep going here.
It might have been I don't know if Cavan Scott has confirmed this. I feel like maybe, but he wanted like a John Wick in his story because I think he might be a fan. So John Wittick was the closest he could get. I'm not sure.
But like John Wittick isn't anything close to like John Wick.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? Like he's not even
not
close.
At all.
He's like this. So John Wittick is like this Republic Guard official on the Restitution, which is the ship that Lourna Dee is on serving her sentence, but she's known as Sal. And Wittick believes in Sal / Lourna Dee. He believes in her, like thinks that she can change. He doesn't know it's Lourna Dee, but he believes this is someone like there's more there. And the two of them start having conversations and unpacking who she is. And she like trusts him enough to even tell him at one point that she is Lourna Dee. And he doesn't say anything because he wants to establish that level of trust. And Lourna starts to believe that, okay, maybe I can do better. And that essentially comes crashing down in front of her, where Pan Etta, who she believed to have been dead, attacks the Restitution and seeks, vengeance on Lourna for being not necessarily a co-conspirator against with Mark Amro to kill him, but certainly didn't step in to help him in any shape or form. To stop Markham from killing him. And this attack is like killing all sorts of people. They're trying to take Lourna out, and Lourna has to summon, her Tempest Runner skills, unites different people together to form like a counterattack against Panetta's people. And there is a point in time where she learns that Wittick is going to die. Like he is sick. He's very sick. He's about to be relieved. And she, at that moment with Wittick, viewed herself as like his project. Like, oh, I'm your project to feel good about yourself before you die. Like this was never about me. This was all about you trying to make a name for yourself in terms of like inside your your being, you have accomplished one last final goal before you move on. And she's so tired of being different people's projects. And that goes back to her flashbacks, where we will get into that. But Luke, thoughts on just Whittick and the relationship with Whittick in general before we get back into flashbacks that kind of demonstrate how she feels tired of being subject to being other people's like projects or ideas and trying to fill the shoes that other people have been putting in front of her.
Gosh, I think, I mean, clearly she's our main character, but it feels so bad to see
Right.
John Whittick is really trying to do something good here. Like, even if it's not of the like purest of intentions, or if
Mm-hmm.
he's not the most forthcoming with his circumstances, he's still like completely wanting Lourna Dee to become a good person and really change.
Yeah.
And for Lorna to see, a little bit behind the curtain that she maybe wasn't supposed to, and that changes everything for her. Suddenly,
Everything.
it's the Luthen rail everything. She comes unglued because she just
Mm-hmm.
jumps to these assumptions that the trauma in her past is being triggered now.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened with Bala? What happened in these, slave pits, fighting pits? Like, it's coming back to her now. Like, oh, you're just like the rest of them. You're trying to just use me.
Mm-hmm.
And really, John's not. He
Mm-hmm.
has a heart condition, and he doesn't have his medicine, and so they're under attack, and he can't really take medicine during a siege.
Right.
So he's failing. That comes to light that like one of his other officers is like, looking so good, like you're not going to make it because of this condition. And she goes,
He was about
condition?
to be
Like,
relieved from duty,
yeah, you're
essentially.
about to
Yeah.
be relieved from duty because of your palpitations or your heart stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, really? Like, that's what it was? Like, she just takes it such the wrong way, and it hurts to see, because she was doing really well here in this book. She really came close to making that, like, you know what? I just want to be a good person for society. But that hangs her up, and that really
Mm-hmm.
just puts a crook in it.
And it makes sense when you think back. There's Bala, or even beyond that, she tries to be who maybe her father and family want her to be. She's just not that. And then
Yeah.
Bala says, hey, you can be this for your people. Betrayed there. And then she gets out, and the Jedi save her in the slave pits. And you kind of get a sense from the Jedi who save her, which I thought was interesting, that we see Oppo Rancisis is the Jedi that saves
Yeah.
her. So we get kind of a little bit of a story with a Jedi Master that's around in a lot of eras that we know. Like, he's there in the prequels. He's been around here in the High Republic, but we don't ever have like a lot of Rancisis story. The Living Force might be the closest to a Rancisis story that we have, just from some of the ways that he's written there. So we get a little bit of nuggets here, and that's a way to draw familiarity from this audio drama. Like, oh, I know who that Jedi is, even though I don't necessarily know them. And he sees something in her and sends her to this like military training academy, essentially, like one of the best, toughest ones there are, because he sees something in her. And it's again this feeling of abandonment I think she feels, because saw something in her, put her there, and then he was sent off to like do a different mission later on, to where he couldn't really contact her anymore. He was like a contact point for her, a lifeline, and she was trying to fit into the role that he saw for her and the Lorna that he felt that she could be. But ultimately she feels abandoned somewhat by him, because he's going on a mission. He's not able to make contact, and it's become more scarce when she's able to talk to him. And she's having some people bully her and trying to use their positions of power to make her feel bad, as like both like an orphan, as a Twi'lek, as like a refugee almost, in a sense, in this place. And she's been doing well for herself in terms of she scores well, she's brilliant, but kills one of them nearly, or I guess nearly kills one of them, and takes off, steals a shuttle, and she's like, I'm gone. And that's how she ends up starting her life, and these like fighting pits as a gladiator, making her way ultimately to seeing Panetta. So she feels almost like a project of Bala failed, a project of her father failed. a project of Emperor Insistus feels like that was failed because these people have maybe not been there for her, and she's worked her way up to, being something they saw in her. And it's like, no, I'm gonna be Lourna Dee, which was the like culmination of this, because there are others that have filled that role as well. Panetta, she tried to be, the best Storm for Panetta and the best Niall she could be in his Tempest. Ultimately, Asghar Rowe feels the same way about Lourna. Calls her his greatest work when she is promoted to Tempest Runner for saving his life. And ultimately, she is the one who kills Asghar Rowe as well, which I thought was interesting. Because I had always assumed Kassav had done it, because Marcian believes that Kassav killed his father, but it was actually, Lourna who did it. So all of these things have taken place to now result in John Whittick being there, being someone to say, hey, I still believe in you. But now Lorna's like, again, this is just another person trying to make me into one of their projects, and I'm not going to have it anymore.
The whole backstory with her actually being in the Nile, it was really interesting to me, because I think the Rowe family is infinitely cool. I love every story we get in phase 2, phase 1, phase 3, whatever it is. It's always awesome to get a little bit more Rowe lore. And so to learn that Asghar, he was going to be killed by the Tempest Runners. They had actually, for once, banded together with Kassav, Pan, and a third one that was before Lourna. They are going to fake this like mutiny just as a distraction to kill Asghar. And Lourna doesn't know that. She's not in on this. And so she stops this from happening, saves Asgar's life. Now Asghar is she's kind of in good with Asghar now, but the rest of the Nile, the leaders of the like grunts, the Tempest Runners.
Well, yeah, the Tempest Runners.
They are not happy that like she ruined their plans and this didn't go as according. They think that if they get Asghar out of the way, they know Markian's there, his son's there. He's just a twerp. Like we can control him super easy. That he has the paths. We need those. So I mean, we'll just manipulate him way better than we can do Asghar. Wow, are they wrong?
It is so wrong. You got Lourna Dee, who is now a Tempest Runner thanks to Asghar, and that she goes and kills him essentially, and is like, I killed him anyway. And they're like, okay, all right, well, let's go control Marcian. But with Marcian, they paint him as like this nervous little, like you said, like a little twerp. He, looks very not confident. But we find out this is literally a mask that he has been wearing this entire time. And we know this because the Markian we know believed his father was weak and believed his father didn't have grand plans like he should. And we see the moment Markian introduced himself, and he walks in and it says like with more confidence than ever before, speaking to them and telling them what they're going to do, how they're going to do it. And then he addresses the Nile. And I think it was Kassav that like looks at him and he goes, I think we may have made a great error in judgment here. And, the rest is history here.
Yeah. Goodness, the way that Markian he almost loses it multiple times throughout this entire story, where someone else is maybe going to get like a moral victory over him and in front of like this public space, in front of all the troops. But Markian is able to, on a dime, switch the rhetoric that he's using and switch like the point of view that he wants everybody else to think this way. And so he's got the floor right now, and he's going to use that time. And his speeches are fantastic.
He gives a great speech.
So just his ability to turn his father's death into something that he can weaponize, even though he thinks his father's weak, he'll say that to your face now, but like he'll turn that in his favor of like, listen, I'm going to be even better. Like,
and Lourna actually extended something to Asghar. She extended her hand to Asghar with a plan to like take out the other Tempest. Like she told them that they had tried to kill you, and Asgar's like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do something that absolutely breaks them to where they have to come back to me. because and you're gonna stick in your place, because Lourna was like, let's just take him out and we'll rule the Nile together, so to speak. And he's like, no. And that's when she realized that, oh, I am just someone that he feels like he can use to achieve whatever goals he has. And she's like, I'm done with that. I'm not doing it anymore. Whereas like the Miles Morales, I'm going to do my own thing. And that's when she decides to kill him. But Lourna on the Restitution, present day, as a prisoner of the Republic, she is now at the lowest of lows again for her, going back to when she was a slave. Like she feels like she's a slave of the Republic, so to speak, where she's just working her time, doing her sentence. And there's like Olga Hest who exists here. And then these people that are, running the prison. She gets beat to a pulp several times, having to defend other members of the Nile that are going to out her if she doesn't. She has a friend named Sestin who is approaching the end of her sentence and wants to go see her kids again. And Sestin believes in Lourna, and knows Lourna as Sal, but believes that she could be a good person, believes that she could change, believe that there's something else in there. And I think that's the theme of the story, is that there is someone inside of you, no matter what you've done, no matter how you've done it, there is like a redeeming, like good part of you that's waiting to come out if you decide to let it. And Sestin believes that and believes in Lourna. And Wittick also believes that. And ultimately, though, Lourna uses the Panetta attack as a way to get herself back into the Nile. And she has a speech with the crew of the Restitution, like, who's with me? After she galvanizes them, she had successfully organized the defense of the Restitution, defended the crew against Panetta's scav droids and troops that he had sent in, so now she kind of has like the formings of a Tempest again. She has like her crew together, and now she can go back to the Nile. But I did like the end of this book where she has the final formings of this plan, and she starts realizing, I'm going to use this for my advantage. I'm going to do this. We're going to kill these people, and we're going to go off. And Wittick basically says, the Republic will hunt you down, Lourna. Don't do this. Like you're not this person. And Sestin, she's like, you're not this person, Lourna. I believe in you. And she kills Wittick and, shoots him. And it says that she shoots Sal as well. Like in the book, like it sounds like she shoots Sal. Then we find out at the end, though, that she had put Sal in an escape pod and sent her out. And
or that was Sestin. Sestin was in the
Sestin. Yeah, Sestin. Yeah. So she puts Sestin out on an escape pod, and she's picked up by the Republic, and they ask her, like, what happened? She's like, my friend Sal put me in an escape pod. She's like, oh, is Sal alive too? She's no. Or I knew her as Sal. She says, no, she's gone forever, I think. And I thought that was really, really interesting, where she almost said, this person I knew is dead. And Lourna Dee is, back. She's moving forward. But at the same time, Lourna did save Sestin. Like she did help and make sure Sestin lived. So there was a little bit of like, could we be seeing a turn from Lourna, even though she's going back to the Nile?
I think that is kind of what this book did for Lourna, is you're not going to turn her to being a good person in this book, but it softened her up majorly. I think she is much softer now and more pliable and ready to take in perspectives that are not her own and that she hasn't found yet. So now, yeah, she leaves off the end of this book ready, and does go back to the Nile, go back to Markian, and Zetar with elevated bargaining power, that she killed Panetta for sure this time. Like she knows she did that. She has intel on the Republic. She has a much better grasp of herself, she thinks. And so she comes back and she's a little bit more powerful and got just more going on with the Nile. That's why she thinks her best shot is to go back there, because she does know that system, how that works. She's good at it, really. Yeah. And so for her to be even
the evil that better, sort of thing,
rather than the evil that you don't.
Yeah. That makes sense, especially as she's going, back in. But I did enjoy the flashbacks here, because it gives us a full depth character here. Like she has a lot of depth, and I thought Cavan Scott, writes Lourna extremely well. It's obviously a character that we know is is kind of like his character. You know, every High Republic, like luminous author, kind of has a couple of like their characters. Lourna is one of his, and leading into this, you know, Tempest Runner story. I read this for the first time. Like I did this for the first time for this show. And this has been out for a few years, so I hadn't been aware that this story existed. So I've always kind of been like, oh, Lourna Dee, there she is. This is cool when she shows up in Phase 3 comics or different things. And I'm like, but I don't really care too much about Lourna Dee. But this makes me kind of appreciate some of those comics more, like, oh, I care about these to a higher standard, like to a higher degree than I did before. And moving forward, I am excited to go back into those because I will now have, like, I think a greater appreciation for Lourna Dee.
Absolutely. Cavan Scott. It's funny how he's got the comics that have been going well. He's got the Rising Storm that he had right before this, and now he's done this audio drama. I think he's touched every single piece of media that the High Republic has put out. Because I even think even Young Jedi Adventures, he has helped with the episodes that
he's done that. He's written adult novels. He has written this audio drama. He's done the comic run. So he's been all over the place.
Even Starlight Stories, he's done the mini stories in those. So I mean, he's
done some of the short stories. Yeah,
his fingerprints are all over this, and he's so good. So I'm so glad that he has been so involved. And you can see how well the stories intertwine here with like you really need to know what goes on in the Rising Storm to feel the full weight of this book. It's a good book without that info, but for him to write both of them and the comic issues that are going on in between them as well, like it just works really well because he's in control of this narrative. Keeve, Lourna are the two that I think of about as like Cavan's characters. So I love it. I love that he's kind of put his like self into these.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of the other, you know, the next Tempest Breaker, I think, is the one for Phase 3. I haven't read that one, so I'm looking forward to getting getting into it. Okay, I'm glad because I was a little frustrated when Tempest Breaker was announced and I hadn't finished the comic line hadn't finished yet. The comic run hadn't finished yet, and then she's on the cover of Tempest Breaker, which takes place after the comics. I'm like, are you serious right now? And then I was just frustrating, but
their release schedule is wonky.
We're okay. It's fine. Yeah. Before we get off, I did want to show you something brand new that I got. It's a little Star Wars here unboxing for you. This was given to me by Janelle's brother, who recently just got back from Japan. He was not at Star Wars Celebration, but he did like a month-long tour of Japan for vacation and got me this ceremonial tea glass. That is Star Wars based.
That is so cool.
So I thought that was really cool.
That is very lovely. He thought of you. Got that.
So I thought that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that very much. Whenever he gave that to me, he went with me to see Revenge of the Sith today. So he gave me that afterwards. So amazing. Shout out to Rob. Shout out to Rob. I was going to say, appreciate that. Absolutely. So next week we'll be covering, or next time we do Timeline Show, we'll be doing Fallen Star, right? For episode 49, Fallen Star by Claudia Gray. Is that correct?
That's what we've got queued up.
Oh boy. Okay. Got to mentally prepare for that. I'm about 3 chapters in, so I got a lot of reading to do, but
Regon Call! No! My favorite character.
Good Lord. We got Revenge of the Sith. That just broke my heart. About to read Fallen Star, which is going to break my heart. Brasso just died. B was left alone. Who knows what's going to happen in the Andor? Oh, sorry, spoilers. Who knows what's going to happen in the Andor season 2 second arc that takes place on Tuesday? A lot of death and destruction in my life from Star Wars. Like, come on, like, what are we doing here?
A lot of death and destruction in my life. End quote.
Star Wars. Anyway, all right. For a light in life, everyone, remember we are all the Republic. Remember, hold on. Wait. Like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you do that, please. Spotify and Apple Podcasts at Star Wars Newsnet. Leave us a little review there if you pay attention. And in the comments, just let us know what you think of Tempest Runner, all that good stuff. For Light and Life, we're all the Republic for real this time. See you next time.